Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskritya Naram Chayanatottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtikrayeshu Savadreshu Tim Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 11, the expansions of Lord Nityananda, text 42. Acharya Vaishwananda Bhakti Adhikari Purve Nama Chillaya Raghunatha Puri. The 27th prominent devotee of Nityananda Prabhu was Acharya Vaishnavananda, a great personality in devotional service. He was formerly known as Raghunath Puri. In the Gaur Gaunandesh Deepika, it is said that Raghunath Puri was previously very powerful in the 8 mystic successes, or 8 mystic Ashtasiddhis. He was an incarnation of one of the successes, one of the Siddhis. Vishnudas Nandan Gangadas Tin Bhai Purve Yar Ghare Chilla Thakura Nitai. Another important devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu was Vishnudas, who had 2 brothers, Nandan and Gangadas. Lord Nityananda Prabhu sometimes stayed at their house. The 3 brothers, Vishnudas, Nandan and Gangadas, were residents of Navadvip and belonged to Bhattacharya Brahman family. Both Vishnudas and Gangadas stayed for some time with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri, and then the Chaitanya Bhagavat states that formerly Nityananda Prabhu stayed at their house. Nityananda Bhritya Parmananda Upadhyaya Shri Jiva Pandit Nityananda Gunagame. Parmananda Upadhyaya was Nityananda Prabhu's great survivor. Shri Jiva Pandit glorified the qualities of Shri Nityananda Prabhu. Shri Parmananda Upadhyaya was an advanced devotee. His name is mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, where Shri Jiva Pandit is also mentioned as the second son of Ratna Garbha Acharya and a childhood friend of Hadai Ocha, the father of Nityananda Prabhu. In the Gaur Gaunandesh Deepika, it is said that Shri Jiva Pandit was formerly the gopi named Indira. Paramananda Gupta Krishna Bhakta Mahamati Purve Yar Ghare Nityanandera Vasati. The 31st devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu was Paramananda Gupta, who was greatly devoted to Lord Krishna and highly advanced in spiritual consciousness. Formerly, Nityananda Prabhu also resided at his house for some time. Paramananda Gupta composed a prayer to Lord Krishna known as Krishna Stavavali. In Gaur Gaunandesh Deepika, it is stated that he was formerly the gopi named Manju Medha. Narayana Krishna Das Ara Manohar Devananda Chari Bhai Nitai Kinkar. The 32nd, 33rd, 34th, and 35th prominent devotees were Narayan, Krishnadas, Manohar, and Devananda, who always engaged in the service of Lord Nityananda. Thoda Krishna Dasa Nityananda Prabhu Pran Nityananda Pada Vinu Nahi Janiyam. The 36th branch of Lord Nityananda was Thoda Krishna Das, whose life and soul was Nityananda Prabhu. He was always dedicated to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, and he knew no one else but residence of Krishna Das Thoda was Bada Gachi, which is now in Bangladesh. Nakadi Mukunda Surya Madhav Shridhara Ramananda Vasu Jagat Atmahidhara. Among Lord Nityananda's devotees, Nakadi was the 37th, Mukunda the 38th, Surya the 39th, Madhav the 40th, Shridhar the 41st, Ramananda the 42nd, Jagannath the 43rd, and Mahidhar the 44th. And Shridhar was the 12th Gopal. Shrimanta Gokuldas Hari Harananda Shivai Nandahi Avadhuta Pavananda. Shrimanta was the 45th, Gokuldas 46th, Harihar Ananda the 47th, Shivai the 48th, Nandai the 49th, and Parvananda the 50th. Vasanta Navani Hoda Gopala Sanatan Vishnai Hajara Krishna Vasulochan. Vasanta was the 51st, Navani Hoda the 52nd, Gopal 53rd, Sanatan 54th, Vishnai the 55th, Krishnananda the 56th, and Sulocha the 57th. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya, Navani Hoda appears to have been the same person as Hoda Krishnadas, the son of king of Badgachi. His father's name was Hari Hoda. One can visit Badgachi by taking the Lal Bola Ghat railway line. Formerly the Ganges flowed by Badgachi, but now it has become a canal known as Kalashira Khala. Near the Mulagacha station is a village known as Shaligram, in which King Krishnadas arranged for the marriage of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. As described in the Bhakti Ratnakar, it is sometimes said that Navani Hoda was the son of Raja Krishnadas. His descendants still live in Ruknapura, a village near Bahiragachi. They belong to Dakshin Radhiya Kayastha community, but having been reformed as Brahmins, they still initiate all classes of men. Kansari Sena Rama Sena Ramachandra Kaviraja Govinda Shri Ranga Mukunda Tinna Kaviraja. The 58th great devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu was Kansari Sena. The 59th was Ram Sen, the 60th was Ramchandra Kaviraj, and 61st, 62nd, 63rd were Govinda, Sriranga, and Mukunda, who were all physicians. Shri Ramchandra Kaviraj, the son of Khandavasi, Chiranjiva, and Sunanda, was a disciple of Srinivasacharya and the most intimate friend of Narottam Das Thakur, who prayed several times for his association. So in one of the bhajans also, when some Vaishnava leaves his body, we sing this bhajan, O he Vaishnava Thakur. And in that bhajan, Narottam Das Thakur has written in the end, Ramchandra Shanga Mange Narottama Das. So he's referring to this Sri Ramchandra Kaviraj. His youngest brother was Govinda Kaviraj. Srila Jiva Goswami was very much appreciated Sri Ramchandra Kaviraj's great devotion to Lord Krishna and therefore gave him the title Kaviraj. Sri Ramchandra Kaviraj was perpetually disinterested in family life, greatly assisted in the preaching work of Srinivas Acharya and Narottam Das Thakur. He resided at first in Sri Khanda, but later in the village of Kumar Nagar on the bank of the Ganges. Govind Kaviraj was a brother of Ramchandra Kaviraj and youngest son of Chiranjiva of Sri Khanda. Although at first a Shakta or worshipper of goddess Durga, he was later initiated by Srinivas Acharya Prabhu. Govinda Kaviraj also resided first in Sri Khanda and then in Kumar Nagar, but later removed to the village known as Telia Budhri on the southern bank of the river Padma. Since Govind Kaviraj, the author of two books, Sangeet Madhav and Gita Amrita, is a great Vaishnava Kavi or poet, Srila Jiva Goswami gave him the title Kaviraj. He is described in the Bhakti Ratnakar. Kansari Sen was formerly Ratnavali in Vraj, as described in Gauravanandesh Deepika. So about these devotees, Ramchandra Kaviraj, Govind Kaviraj, it's mentioned in Bhakti Ratnakar, another book, I believe it, Bhakti Ratnakar was written, I'm forgetting the name. So they're not mentioned in detail in Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavat. Pitambar Madhvacharya Das Damodar Shankara Mukunda Gyan Das Manohar. Among the devotees of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, Pitambar was the 64th, Madhvacharya the 65th, Damodar Das 66th, Shankar 67th, Mukunda the 68th, Gyanadas the 69th, and Manohar the 70th. Nartak Gopal Ram Bhadra Gorang Das, Narsimha Chaitanya Meena Ketana Ram Das. The dancer Gopal was at 71st, Rambhadra, the 72nd, Gorang Das, the 73rd, Narsimha Chaitanya, the 74th, and Meenaketan Ramadas, the 75th. The Gaur Gunadesh Deepika describes Meenaketan Ramadas as incarnation of Sankarshan. Vrindavan Das Narayanira Nandan Chaitanya Mangala Yeho Karila Rachan. Vrindavan Das Thakur, the son of Srimati Narayani, composed Shri Chaitanya Mangal, later known as Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Bhagavate Krishna Lila Varnila Veda Vyasa Chaitanya Lila Te Vyas Vrindavan Dasa. Srila Vyasadeva described the pastimes of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vyas of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Vrindavan Das. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur was an incarnation of Vedavyas and also a friendly cowherd boy named Kusuma Pida in Krishna Lila. In other words, the author of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, the son of Srivas Thakur's niece, Narayani, was a combined incarnation of Vedavyas and the cowherd boy Kusuma Pida. There is a descriptive statement by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his commentary on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavad, giving the biographical details of the life of Vrindavan Das Thakur. Sarva Shaka Shrestha Veera Bhadra Gosai Tara Upashaka Jata Tara Antanai. Among all the branches of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Veerbhadra Gosai was the topmost. His sub-branches were unlimited. Ananta Nityananda Gana Kekaru Gana Atma Pavitrata Hetu Likila Katajan. No one can count the unlimited followers of Nityananda Prabhu. I have mentioned some of them just for my self-purification. Ei sarva shakha purna pakva prema phale jare deke tare diya bhasha ila sakale. All these branches, the devotees of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, being full of ripened fruits of love of Krishna, distributed these fruits to all they met, flooding them with love of Krishna. Anargala prema sabha cheshta anargala prema dite Krishna dite dhare mahabala. All these devotees had unlimited strength to deliver unobstructed, unceasing love of Krishna. By their own strength, they could offer anyone Krishna and love of Krishna. That's devotee. That's a Vaishnava. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung, Krishna se tomara Krishna dite para, tomara shakati ache. In this song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that a pure Vaishnava, as a proprietor of Krishna and love of Krishna and lover of Krishna, can deliver both to anyone and everyone he likes. Therefore, to get Krishna and love of Krishna, one must seek the mercy of pure devotees. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also says, Yasya prasada bhagavat prasad. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one is blessed by the mercy of Krishna. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advance. By the grace of a Vaishnava or bona fide spiritual master, one can get both love of Godhead Krishna and Krishna himself. So that is a way, and that's the easiest way of getting Krishna prema. Sankshepe kahila e nityananda gana yahara avadhina pae sahasra vadan. I have briefly described only some of the followers and devotees of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Even the 1,000-mouthed Sheshanag cannot describe all of these unlimited devotees. So he just gave names of few. Shirup Raghunath Pade Jara Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishna. With an ardent desire to serve the purpose of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, 11th chapter, in the matter of the expansions of Lord Nityananda. So we can start chapter 12, the expansions of Advaita Acharya and Gadadhar Pandit. Advaitangri abja bhringanstan sarasar brito akhilan hitvacharan sara brito nomi chaitanya jivanan. The followers of Sri Advaita Prabhu were of two kinds. Some were real followers and others were false. Rejecting the false followers, I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Advaita Acharyas, real followers, whose life and soul was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Jaya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Dhanya. All glories to Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Lord Nityananda. All glories to Shri Advaita Prabhu. All of them are glorious. Shri Chaitanya Amar Taror Dvitiya Skanda Rupina Srimad Advaita Chandrasya Shakha Rupan Gananuma. I offer my respectful obeisances to the all-glorious Advaita Prabhu, who forms a second branch of the eternal Chaitanya tree, and to his followers who form his sub-branches. So first branch was Nityananda Prabhu, and the main branch, and second one is Advaita Prabhu. Vrikshera Dvitiya Skanda Acharya Gosai Tare Yat Shakha Haila Tare Lekhanai. Shri Advaita Prabhu was the second big branch of the tree. There are many sub-branches, but it's impossible to mention them. Chaitanya Malir Kripa Jale Rase Chane Sei Jale Pushta Skanda Bane Dine Dine. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also the gardener, and as he poured the water of his mercy on the tree, all the branches and sub-branches grew day after day. Sei skande jat prema phalan upajila, sei Krishna prema phale jagat bharila. The fruits of love of Godhead that grew on those branches of the Chaitanya tree were so large that they flooded the entire world with the love of Krishna. Sei jal skande kare shakha te sanchara, phale phule bade shakha haila vistara. As the trunk and branches were watered, the branches and sub-branches spread lavishly, and the tree grew full with fruits and flowers. Pratmeta ek mata acharyera gana, pache dui mata haila devera karana. At first, all the followers of Advaita Acharya shared a single opinion, but later they followed two different opinions as ordained by Providence. The words Devera Karan indicate that by dint of providence or by God's will, the followers of Advaita Acharya divided into two parties. Such disagreement among the disciples of one Acharya is also found among the members of the Gaudiya Math. In the beginning, during the presence of Om Vishnupad Paramhans Parivrajkacharya Shtotarshat Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, all the disciples worked in agreement. But just after his disappearance, they disagreed. One party strictly followed the instructions of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but another group created their own concoction about executing his desires. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at the time of his departure, requested all his disciples to form a governing body and conduct missionary activities cooperatively. He did not instruct a particular man to become the next Acharya, but just after his passing away, his leading secretaries made plans without authority to occupy the post of Acharya. And they split into two factions over who the next Acharya would be. Consequently, both factions were asar, or useless because they had no authority, having disobeyed the orders of the spiritual master. Despite the spiritual master's order to form a governing body and execute the missionary activities of Gaudiya Math, the two unauthorized factions began litigation that is still going on after 40 years with no decision. So somehow it can happen in spiritual societies also. As Prabhupada also mentioned towards his last days, he said some of them, I mean some of his disciples, they wanted him, Prabhupada, to die so that they can become guru and take over. It's recorded actually. So the point is, all we have to do is just try to become devotees of Krishna. That's it. But this power position, sometimes, always, it's very attractive, and the person can do anything to get it. So Prabhupada said, therefore we do not belong to any faction, but because the two parties busy dividing the material assets of the Gaudiya Math institution stopped the preaching work, we took up the mission of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur to preach the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world, under the protection of all the predecessor acharyas, and we find that our humble attempt has been successful. But this doesn't mean we speak anything against Gaudiya Math. Prabhupada could say they were his god brothers, but we have no right. All we have to do is do our bhajan properly and preach. We followed the principles especially explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary on Bhagavad Gita verse, beginning Vivasat Yatmika Buddhir Ekeha Kurunam. According to this instruction of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it's the duty of a disciple to follow strictly the orders of his spiritual master. The secret of success and advancement in spiritual life is a firm faith of the disciple in the orders of his spiritual master. The Vedas confirm this. Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha guru. To one who has staunch faith in the words of the spiritual master and the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the secret of success in Vedic knowledge is revealed. So secret of success in Vedic knowledge is revealed. It cannot be just understood by our knowing of Sanskrit language. It is revealed to us when we are ready. The Krishna consciousness movement is being propagated according to this principle, and therefore our preaching work is going on successfully in spite of the many impediments offered by antagonistic demons, because we are getting positive help from our previous acharyas. One must judge every action by its result. The members of the self-appointed Acharya's party who occupied the property of the Gaudiya Math are satisfied, but they could not make no progress in preaching. Therefore, by the result of their actions, one should know that they are asar, or useless. Whereas the success of the ISKCON party, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which strictly follows Guru and Gauranga, is increasing daily all over the world. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to print as many books as possible and distribute them all over the world. We have tried our best in this connection and we are getting results beyond our expectations. So even in spiritual societies, anything can happen, because although we are trying to make progress spiritually, but that enviousness is still there, and other anarthas also. So we have to work hard to remove those anarthas by our proper bhajan and by our service mood. taking association of devotees and serving them. Otherwise, even if somebody is a sannyasi or wearing saffron cloths as brahmachari or sannyasi or even Babaji, one might not be at that level. That's a problem. So inside we have to see where am I and how much bhajan, how much more bhajan I have to do and continue doing it, and more dedication, more devotion, more energy, more enthusiasm we have to put in it. So we make progress. That's a simple thing. And if we get after power, position, name, fame, followers, money, that the only thing it means is we still, those anarthas are still there. And in large quantity, they are still there. We might not be able to see it, but that's what it is. So at least proper books, proper instructions are there for our guidance. So we study them, we read them, we follow, and we do our bhajan properly. That's the only thing that is required. Kehata acharya agyaya kehata swatantra swamata kalpana kare deva paratantra. Some of the disciples strictly accepted the orders of the acharya, and others deviated, independently concocting their own opinions under the spell of Devi Maya. And even these are the disciples of Advaita Acharya, who's Vishnu Tattva himself, Mahavishnu himself. And if it can happen to his disciples, we should just understand it can happen with anybody and everybody. So we got to be careful. This verse describes the beginning of Vishyastu, when disciples do not stick to the principle of accepting the order of their spiritual master. Immediately there are two opinions. Any opinion different from the opinion of the spiritual master is useless. One cannot infiltrate materially concocted ideas into spiritual advancement. That is deviation. There is no scope for adjusting spiritual advancement to material ideas. Acharya mata yai sai mata sara, tara agya langi chale saita asara. The order of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life. Anyone who disobeys the orders of the spiritual master immediately becomes useless. Here is the opinion of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Persons who strictly follow the orders of the spiritual master are useful in executing the will of the Supreme, whereas persons who deviate from the strict order of the spiritual master are useless. So that's what we have to see. Pasarera name iha nahi prayojana, bheda jani bare kari ekatra gana. There is no need to name those who are useless. I have mentioned them only to distinguish them from the useful devotee. Dhanya Rashi Mape Yache Patna Sahite Pashate Patna Udan Sanskara Karite. Paddy is mixed with straw at first, and one must fan it to separate the paddy from the straw. This example given by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is very appropriate. In the case of Gaudiya Math members, one can apply a similar process. There are many branches of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But to judge who is actually his disciple, to divide the useless from the useless, or useful from the useless, one must measure the activities of such disciples in executing the will of the spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur tried his best to spread the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to countries outside India. So he also tried And he sent some of his disciples, sannyasis actually, to London to preach. And at that time, when India was still under British rule, he would collect money from India and send it to London for their expenditure. So they don't have to worry about collecting funds. All they had to do was preach. And still they could not preach. After some time they came back. When he was present, he patronized the disciples to go outside India to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But they were unsuccessful because within their minds they were not actually serious about preaching this cult in foreign countries. They simply wanted to take credit for having gone to foreign land and utilize this recognition in India by advertising themselves as repatriated preachers. Many Swamis have adopted this hypocritical means of preaching for the last 80 years or so, but no one could preach the real cult of Krishna consciousness all over the world. They merely came back to India falsely advertising that they had converted all the followers to the ideas of Vedanta or Krishna consciousness, and then they collected funds in India and lived satisfied lives of material comfort. As one fans paddy to separate the real paddy from useless straw, by accepting the criterion recommended by Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, one can very easily understand who is a genuine world preacher and who is useless. Again, Prabhupada could say that, we cannot say that. It's simple as that. But now, excuse me, now the Gaudiya Math is also flourishing outside India. Many sannyasis and many disciples are there, and they're preaching very vigorously. But at that time, somehow they were not successful. Only Prabhupada, who came out of India and started in New York, he got huge success. And that too, it's more astonishing is that he started at the age of 70 with no help. He left India with only 40 rupees in his pocket because that was only money that was allowed by Indian government at that time, or dollars equivalent to 40 rupees. And he came to New York after 38 days of traveling in cargo ship. 38 days on the sea. Not an easy journey. Where he had 2 heart attacks. And he was all alone in his cabin. And cargo ship, it was not a passenger ship. And he could speak with the Captain Pandya at that time. But that was about it. Not many people were there. They were all busy. And he would be in his room trying to cook for himself and do his bhajan, chanting, or reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then when he got down, first he got down in Boston just to walk around, but then finally got down in New York. And even in New York, he didn't know anybody. And he himself said, I didn't know whether to go left or right. I had no idea. So the person who sponsored his visa, Gopal Agarwal from Pennsylvania, so he had sent a travel agent, pick him up, put him in the bus to Pennsylvania, Butler City, Pennsylvania. So after 38 days of traveling by boat, another bus, and it takes few hours to get to Pennsylvania from New York. And that too, at the advanced age of, at that time he was 69, and then next year 70 when he registered ISKCON. So amazing amount of austerities and inconveniences he had to go through. It wasn't like everybody was sitting waiting for Prabhupada to come in and preaching and everybody joined. So much of hardship, so much of struggle. And at that time in America, people didn't know about vegetarianism. Even Gopal Agarwal, his wife was American, Sally Agarwal, and Prabhupada would cook for himself, and from the same fridge where the meat was kept, he would take out vegetables and make lunch. It's not that easy as it just sounds like. But good thing for us that Prabhupada did not give up and go back. Although he had the pass back for in the same cargo ship, he had the ticket for. He just stayed back, stayed here, and kept struggling, kept pushing. And then gave wonderful books, movement temples and devotees, and so many things he has given. And that too in only 12 years. It wasn't like he was sticked around for too long. No, only 12 years. 1966, when ISKCON was registered, and 1977, when Prabhupada left. But now it's up to the followers to take it up more seriously. And like he's saying, oh, Krishna's going to become a useful follower or a useless follower. And we carry on. अच्युतानंद बड़ शाखा आचार्य नंदन आजन्म से विलाते हूँ चैतन्य चरण. A big branch of Advaita Acharya was his son Achyutananda. From the beginning of his life, he engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Chaitanya Gosair Guru Keshav Bharati Vitar Vakya Shuni Dukh Pailati. When Achyutananda heard from his father that Keshav Bharati was the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy. Although he was a very little boy at that time. And he was unhappy, saying, how can Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has any spiritual master? He's a spiritual master of the whole world. Jagat Guru te tumi kar aiche upadesha, tomare upadesha nashta haila desha. He told his father, your instruction that Keshav Bharati is the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will spoil the entire country. Choda Bhuvanera Guru Chaitanya Gosai, Tar Guru Anya ke e Kona Shastra Nai. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a spiritual master of the 14 worlds. But you say that someone else is a spiritual master? This is not supported by any revealed scripture. Panchama Varshera Balak Kahe Siddhantera Sara Shuniya Paila Acharya Santosha. When Advaita Acharya heard a statement from his 5-year-old son, Achyutananda, he felt great satisfaction because of his conclusive judgment. Commenting on verses 13 through 17, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives an extensive description of the descendants of Advaita Acharya. So Chaitanya Bhagavat Antyakhanda states, Achyutananda was the eldest son of Advaita Acharya. The Sanskrit book Advaita Charita states, Advaita Acharya Prabhu had 3 sons who were devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Their names were Achyuta, Krishna Mishra, and Gopal Das. And they were all born of the womb of his wife, Sita Devi. Advaita Acharya also had 3 more sons whose names were Balaram, Sarupa, and Jagadish. Thus there were 6 sons of Advaita Acharya. Among the 6 sons, 3 were strict followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and of all these 3, Achyutananda was the eldest. Advait Prabhu married in the beginning of the 5th century Shakabda, late 15th century AD. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to visit the village of Ramkeli, while going from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan during the Shakabda years 1433-1434 or AD 1511-1512, Achyutananda was only 5 years old. Chaitanya Bhagavad Antyakhanda described Achyutananda at that time as Panchavarsha Vyas Madhura Digambar, only 5 years old and standing naked. Therefore, it is to be concluded that Achyutananda was born sometime in the year 1428 or AD 1506. Before the birth of Achyutananda, Dvaita Prabhu's wife Sita Devi came to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at his birth. Thus, it is not impossible that she had the other 3 sons by Advaita Prabhu within the 21 years between 1486 AD, because that is the time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and 1507. In an unauthorized book of the name Sita Dvaita Charita, published in Bengali in the unauthorized newspaper Nityananda Daini, it is mentioned that Achyutananda was a class friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to Chaitanya Bhagavad, this statement is not at all valid. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order of life, or sannyas, in the year 1509, he came to the house of Advaita Prabhu at Shantipur. At that time, as stated in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Achyutananda was only 3 years old. The Chaitanya Bhagavat further states that the naked child, the son of Advaita Prabhu, immediately came and fell down at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord immediately took him on his lap, although he was not very clean, having dust all over his body. Lord Chaitanya said, "My dear Achyuta, Advaita Acharya is my father, and thus we are brothers." Before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his spiritual forms during his residence at Navadvip, he asked Sri Ram Pandey, Srivas Thakur's brother, to go to Shantipur and bring back Advaita Acharya. Achyutananda joined his father at that time. So there are more statements about, because many times different writers will write something which is not the proof. But then this goes down as a history, or this is what happened, this is how it happened. But no, this is what Prabhupada is trying to make sure we have to understand how old was Achyutananda, because it has lots of people talking differently. How does it matter? I don't think it matters. But we have to know the truth, that's all. From a book named Shakha Nirnayamrita, it is understood that Achyutananda was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, and that he took shelter of Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri and engaged in devotional service. The Chaitanya Charitamrita states, Achyutananda was son of Advaita Acharya, lived in Jagannath Puri, taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhar Pandit, in the last year of his life, also lived with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. There is no doubt, therefore, that Achyutananda was a disciple of Pandit Gadadhar. In the accounts of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing in front of the car during the Rath Yatra festival, Achyutananda's name is to be found many times. It is stated that in the party of Advaita Acharya from Shantipur, Achyutananda was dancing and others were singing. At that time, the boy was only 6 years old. So, anyway, we have to know the truth and appreciate, but and also understand that now 3 sons of Advaita Acharya himself, they were not in the devotional line, and 3 were in the devotional line. So anything can happen anywhere. That's all. Okay, I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments?
Right? Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Anji Prabhu.
Who has written this Ganudesh Deepika?
I have to find out. It was mentioned earlier. I have to find out again. Compiled by Sri Kavi Karnapur. Sorry. It's mentioned in this purport.
So much of details given, how much of research you must have done to write so much of details.
Research and could also be revelations.
The names.
If he writes something, then means it's authoritative.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Chalo, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.